During our family vacation, my 12-year-old daughter collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. My wife's mother and my sister posted, "Finally having peace without the pathetic drama queen." I didn't shout. I took action. When they returned home, they found this on their kitchen table and started screaming. Look, I'm not saying I had a premonition or anything, but the moment my mother-in-law Evelyn suggested a family bonding trip, I should have faked a work emergency. Maybe appendicitis. Hell, I would have taken a mild case of food poisoning over what actually went down at Clearwater Beach. But no, I'm an idiot who believes in second chances and the transformative power of oceanfront property. So there I was, loading up our Toyota Highlander like we were about to film a Cialis commercial. You know, the ones where everyone's laughing for no reason and the dad looks like he's never experienced a single moment of stress in his entire life. Spoiler alert, that wasn't going to be me. The crew for this disaster in waiting included my wife Harper, who's genuinely the only reason I hadn't already moved to a cabin in Montana, our 12-year-old daughter Lily, who's basically the human embodiment of sunshine and the only person in my life who thinks my jokes are funny, Evelyn, aka my mother-in-law and self-appointed goddess of passive aggression, who once told me my meatloaf had character. Translation, it sucked, and my sister Nora, who I'm convinced peaked in high school, and has been coasting on her homecoming queen energy ever since. Nora's the type of person who shows up to help you move, but spends the entire time on her phone coordinating while you're hauling a couch down 3 flights of stairs. She's basically human Wi-Fi, completely useless when you actually need her, but somehow always connected to everyone else's drama. The drive down to Clearwater should have been my first clue. Evelyn spent 2 hours critiquing Harper's parenting choices from the back seat, because apparently, letting Lily have an iPad on a road trip was going to turn her into a delinquent. Nora was documenting every mile on Instagram with captions like "beach vibes incoming" and "family time hits different," which is rich considering she'd spent the last family gathering in the bathroom doing a full photo shoot for her 73 followers. I just drove, smiled, nodded, did that thing where you dissociate just enough that you're technically present, but your soul is somewhere in the Bahamas drinking something with an umbrella in it. We got to the rental, one of those places that looks amazing online, but in person smells faintly like old carpet and broken dreams. And immediately, the complaint started. The AC was too cold. The beds were too firm. The view wasn't centered properly, as if I'd personally installed the windows at a Johnny angle just to spite everyone. I unpacked, cracked open a beer, and told myself, 3 days. You can survive 3 days. Day 2 was when everything went sideways. Picture this. It's about 2 in the afternoon, and the sun's doing that thing where it's aggressively Florida. Like, you're not just hot, you're being personally victimized by UV rays. I'd volunteered for grill duty because A, I actually enjoy grilling, and B, it gave me a legitimate excuse to stand away from the conversation happening under the beach umbrella, where Evelyn was explaining to Harper why her generation doesn't understand sacrifice, while Nora nodded along like a dashboard bobblehead. I was in my element. Burgers sizzling, hot dogs getting those perfect char marks, feeling like the dad from every cookout stock photo ever created. Lily was playing in the shallow water with some kids she'd befriended approximately 8 minutes after we'd arrived. Because that's what kids do, they just make friends like it's nothing, while adults need 3 mutual connections and a background check before we'll agree to coffee. Then I heard Harper scream. Not like a spider in the bathroom scream. This was different. This was the sound that makes every parent's DNA activate at once. That primal terror that bypasses your brain and goes straight to your legs. I dropped the spatula, sorry, burgers, and ran. Lily was on the sand. Just down. Motionless. Her new friends were standing around her looking confused and scared, and Harper was already on her knees, checking for a pulse. Doing that thing where you try to stay calm, but your hands are shaking so bad you can barely function. Call 911. Harper was yelling, and I was already fumbling for my phone, my fingers suddenly too big for the buttons, my brain moving through that weird slow-motion panic, where everything feels both too fast and not fast enough. Evelyn and Nora came running over. Well, Evelyn power-walked, because God forbid she break a sweat, and started asking questions that nobody had answers to. What happened? Did she hit her head? Was she eating something? As if an interrogation was going to magically fix the situation. The ambulance arrived in what felt like 17 years, but was probably closer to 8 minutes. They loaded Lily up, and I rode with her while Harper followed in the car. I held my daughter's hand the entire way, watching the paramedics work, listening to their calm, professional voices discussing vitals and stats like they weren't talking about my entire world lying unconscious on a gurney. At the hospital, they whisked her away for tests, and I was left in a waiting room that smelled like antiseptic and desperation, with those awful fluorescent lights that make everyone look like extras in a zombie movie. Harper was crying quietly, blaming herself for not noticing something was wrong sooner, and I was doing that dad thing where you try to be strong and reassuring while internally screaming into the void. Evelyn and Nora had followed us to the hospital, and after about 20 minutes of sitting in uncomfortable plastic chairs, Evelyn announced they were going to grab some food, because apparently, stress makes her hungry. Nora immediately agreed, and they left. I barely registered their departure. I was too busy pacing, making deals with the universe, promising to be a better person, a better dad, a better everything if Lily would just be okay. About 10 minutes after they left, my phone buzzed. A Facebook notification. Normally, I'd ignore it. I barely use social media anyway, but something made me look. It was a post from Evelyn's account. A photo of her and Nora, sitting at some beachside bar, margaritas in hand, both grinning like they'd just won the lottery. The caption read, "Finally having peace without the pathetic drama queen." I stared at that screen for a solid 30 seconds, my brain trying to process what I was seeing. My daughter was in a hospital. My wife was falling apart. And these two were celebrating, posting about peace, while we were living through every parent's nightmare. I didn't shout, didn't throw my phone, didn't storm out to confront them. I just looked at Harper, who was staring at her own phone with tears streaming down her face, having obviously seen the same post. And in that moment, standing in that sterile hospital hallway with terrible lighting and worse coffee, I made a decision. A calm, calculated, absolutely resolute decision. I thought, perfect. Let them enjoy their peace while they still can. Because if there's one thing people should know about me, it's this. I don't get mad. I get methodical. And they'd just given me all the motivation I needed. You know that feeling when you're waiting for news about your kid, and every second feels like you're being slowly digested by time itself? Yeah, that's where I was. Pacing that hospital hallway like I was training for a marathon nobody signed up for. Drinking coffee that tasted like it had been brewed sometime during the Bush administration, and I'm not even sure which Bush. Harper was sitting in one of those chairs that are specifically designed to make you uncomfortable, probably so you can't relax enough to forget why you're there in the first place. Her eyes were red and puffy, and she kept refreshing her phone, alternating between checking for updates from the doctors and staring at that goddamn margarita post like it was going to suddenly make sense if she looked at it enough times. 2 hours felt like 2 decades, but finally, a doctor came out. Young guy, couldn't have been more than 30, with that specific kind of calm competence that either means everything's fine or he's really good at delivering bad news. My heart was doing that thing where it's both racing and stopping at the same time, which I'm pretty sure isn't medically possible, but there we were. "Mr. and Mrs. Patterson," he said, and I swear I aged another 10 years in the half-second before he smiled. "Lily's awake. She's going to be just fine." I'm not a religious man. I describe myself as spiritual, but mostly cynical. But in that moment, I thanked every deity I'd ever heard of. Jesus, Buddha, Allah, Zeus, that flying spaghetti monster people joke about. Every single one of them got a mental shout-out from me. Hell, I probably thanked some gods that don't even exist. I was covering all my bases. Harper burst into tears, the good kind this time, and grabbed my hand so hard I'm pretty sure she left permanent fingerprints. The doctor explained that Lily had severe dehydration combined with heat exhaustion. Nothing that some 4 fluids and rest couldn't fix, but scary as hell when you're 12 and your body just decides to shut down without warning. They let us go see her, and there she was, my baby girl, looking small in that hospital bed but awake, with color back in her cheeks and that spark in her eyes that made her Lily. She had an 4 in her arm and one of those hospital gowns that somehow makes everyone look like they're wearing a parachute, but she smiled when she saw us. "Hey, Dad," she said, her voice a little raspy. "Sorry for scaring you." I sat down next to her and had to work really hard not to completely lose it. "Kiddo, you can scare me anytime as long as you wake up after." That's the deal. She laughed. This weak little laugh that was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. And Harper was fussing over her, adjusting her pillows and asking the nurses 17 questions about hydration and recovery and what we needed to do differently. I just sat there holding Lily's hand, watching her drift back to sleep, and felt this weird combination of overwhelming relief and absolute rage. Because my daughter was okay, thank God, but the fact that two people who were supposed to care about her had been more concerned with their margarita aesthetic than her well-being, that was a different story entirely. Harper must have read my mind. Or maybe I just have really terrible resting revenge face, because she leaned over and whispered, "I'm so sorry. About my mother. About Nora. That post was... I don't even have words." I looked at her, this woman I'd been married to for 14 years, who'd been caught between her family and me for way too long, and said, "Don't bother apologizing for them. I've got plans for dessert." She blinked at me, confused. "Dessert? The hospital cafeteria has Jell-O, I think." "Oh, Harper." Sweet, exhausted, stressed out Harper. She thought I was talking about actual dessert. She had no idea that I was planning a 7-course meal of consequences that would make Gordon Ramsay's insults look like compliments. "Sure," I said, patting her hand. "Jell-O sounds great." About an hour later, guess who showed up? If you said, 2 people who should have been there the entire time. Congratulations, you're more optimistic than me. Evelyn and Nora waltzed into that hospital room like they were making an entrance at a charity gala, all smiles and concerned expressions that looked about as genuine as a $3 bill. "Oh, thank goodness," Evelyn said, putting her hand to her chest in this dramatic gesture that would have gotten her laughed out of a community theater audition. "We were so worried." I watched her from my chair next to Lily's bed, saying nothing. Harper jumped up to hug her mother, because Harper's default setting is keep the peace, even when the peace deserves to be absolutely shattered. Nora came over and ruffled Lily's hair like she was a golden retriever. "Feeling better, kiddo? You gave us quite a scare." "You gave us a scare?" I thought. "You weren't even here. You were busy becoming a meme template with your stupid drinks and your stupider caption." But I still didn't say anything. Just smiled, nodded, played the part of the relieved dad who was too grateful for good news to start conflicts. Then Evelyn. And I swear to God, this woman has a gift for saying the exact wrong thing at the exact wrong time. Looked at Lily sleeping peacefully and said, "Oh, good, she's alive. Oh, good, she's alive." Not, "Thank God she's okay." Not, "We were so worried about our granddaughter." Just this casual, almost inconvenienced acknowledgement of my daughter's survival, like she was commenting on the weather or the traffic. Have you ever had one of those out-of-body experiences where your consciousness just straight up leaves your physical form because it cannot deal with the reality it's currently experiencing? Where your brain goes, "Did she actually just say that? Did those words really come out of her mouth in that order? Am I having a stroke? Is this real life?" Yeah, that. Harper's face went pale. Nora at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. And I just sat there, still smiling, still nodding, my brain running calculations faster than a NASA computer. They stayed for maybe 20 more minutes, making small talk that was about as comfortable as a porcupine massage, before Evelyn announced they were exhausted and needed to get back to the hotel to rest. Because apparently, drinking margaritas and posting on social media is really draining work. "You two should get some rest too," Evelyn said to Harper, completely ignoring me. "We'll see you in the morning." They left, and the room felt immediately lighter, like someone had opened a window and let out toxic gas. Harper looked at me. She didn't mean. "Yes, she did," I said calmly. "And it's fine." "It's not fine. You're right. It's not. But it will be." That night, the hospital let Lily stay for observation, and Harper insisted on sleeping in the chair next to her bed. I told them I'd head back to the hotel to grab some of Lily's things, her favorite stuffed animal, some comfortable clothes, her phone charger. But I didn't go to the hotel room. I went to the parking lot, sat in my car, and pulled out my phone. Then I started making calls. Comm calls. Systematic calls. Each one carefully planned. Each one a small piece of a larger puzzle that Evelyn and Nora wouldn't see coming until it was too late. My bank. My insurance company. My lawyer. My accountant. I sat there in that parking garage, under those harsh fluorescent lights that made everything look vaguely apocalyptic, and I smiled. The kind of smile that could freeze fire. The kind of smile that meant someone had pushed the wrong person way too far. They wanted peace. Fine. I was about to give them so much peace, they'd be begging for chaos. The drive back from Clearwater Beach was about as comfortable as a root canal performed by a dentist with Parkinson's. We'd kept Lily in the hospital for one more night just to be safe, and now she was buckled in the back seat, headphones on, completely oblivious to the tension in the car that was so thick you could have cut it with a butter knife. Evelyn sat in the passenger seat humming gospel songs, because apparently, nothing says, "I'm a good person," quite like humming Amazing Grace after you've publicly called your son-in-law pathetic on social media while his daughter was in the hospital. The cognitive dissonance was truly spectacular. I'm talking Olympic-level mental gymnastics. Nora had her own car, a hand-me-down Nissan that I'd helped her buy 3 years ago when she was between opportunities, which is code for unemployed but too proud to admit it, and she was following behind us. Every time I checked the rearview mirror, I could see her singing along to whatever basic pop song was playing, probably planning her next Instagram story about family road trips and blessed moments. Harper was next to me in the passenger seat when we stopped for gas, because Evelyn had announced she needed to stretch her legs and went inside to buy some chips or Judgment, whichever was on sale. My wife looked exhausted, like she'd aged 5 years in 3 days, and she kept glancing at me with this expression that was half concern, half fear. "You're being really quiet," she said. "I'm driving," I replied, which was technically true but also completely missing the point. "No, I mean, you haven't said anything about the post. About what my mother said at the hospital. You're not even angry." I merged back onto the highway, keeping my eyes on the road. "Who says I'm not angry? You haven't yelled. Haven't confronted anyone. You're just driving." I smiled. Not a happy smile. More like the smile a shark gives a seal right before lunch. "Harper, honey, I learned a long time ago that yelling is for people who don't have plans. I have plans." She shifted in her seat, and I could feel her staring at me. "That's what scares me." "It shouldn't scare you," I said. "You're not the one who posted that margarita picture." The rest of the drive was filled with Evelyn's humming, the occasional sound of Lily laughing at something on her phone, which, thank God, because hearing her laugh meant she was okay, and the endless scroll of white lines on asphalt that all looked the same after a while. We pulled into our driveway around 7 p.m., and the moment we got out of the car, you could feel everyone trying to act like the last 3 days hadn't happened. It was like watching bad actors in a community theater production of Normal Family, the musical. Evelyn immediately started complaining about the air conditioning. "It's absolutely frigid in here. Are you trying to give everyone pneumonia?" I was unloading suitcases and didn't even look up. "It's set to 72, Evelyn. The same temperature it's been for the last 6 years." "Well, it feels colder," she insisted, because God forbid she just exist in a space without having an opinion about it. Nora came in behind us, already scrolling through her phone, and had the audacity to say, "Hey, bro, what's the Wi-Fi password again? My phone forgot it." "Bro." She called me bro. Like we were buddies. Like she hadn't just spent the worst day of my life taking selfies with alcoholic beverages. "It's the same password it's always been," I said, hauling Lily's suitcase upstairs. "Yeah, but like, what is it?" I stopped on the stairs and turned around. "Check the router. It's written on the side." She made this annoyed face like I'd just asked her to solve a differential equation. "Can't you just tell me?" "I could," I said, "but then you wouldn't learn anything." Harper shot me a look that said, "Please don't start," but I was already heading upstairs. I helped Lily get settled in her room, made sure she had water and her medications. The doctor had given us electrolyte supplements and strict instructions about staying hydrated, and kissed her forehead. "Dad?" she said as I was leaving. "Yeah, sweetheart. Are you mad at Grandma and Aunt Nora?" Kids, man. They see everything. They're like little emotional surveillance cameras that you can't turn off. I sat back down on her bed. "Why would you think that?" "Because you've been super quiet, and you only get quiet when you're really mad. Like that time the neighbor's dog kept pooping in our yard, and you didn't yell. You just did something." "I trained our sprinklers to turn on when the dog got near our lawn," I said. "That's called problem solving." "Yeah, but you were mad when you did it." I couldn't lie to her. I've never been able to lie to Lily. She's got this built-in BS detector that's more accurate than a polygraph. "I'm disappointed in their behavior," I said carefully. "But you don't need to worry about it. That's adult stuff. The post was mean, she said quietly. I saw it before Grandma deleted it. Mom showed me when I asked why everyone was being weird. My heart clenched. Lily, it's okay, Dad. I know you're not pathetic. You're literally the best dad ever. You stayed with me the whole time in the hospital. Grandma and Aunt Nora weren't even there. I hugged her then, probably longer than she wanted, because she eventually squirmed and said, Dad, you're crushing me. But I didn't care. This kid, this amazing, perceptive, wonderful kid who'd almost given me a heart attack 3 days ago was comforting me. Get some rest, I told her. And drink your water. Doctor's orders. And Dad's orders, she added with a grin. Especially Dad's orders. I went back downstairs to find Evelyn sitting on our couch like she owned the place, remote in hand, flipping through channels and criticizing every show that appeared. This is all garbage. Why do you pay for cable? We don't, I said. That's streaming. Well, it's still garbage. Nora had apparently figured out the Wi-Fi password, technological miracle of the century, and was now sprawled across our armchair, feet up on the ottoman, recording some kind of TikTok video where she was lip-syncing to a song about being unbothered. The irony was not lost on me. Harper was in the kitchen stress cooking, which is what she does when she can't control other aspects of her life. I could hear her aggressively chopping vegetables like they'd personally wronged her. I walked past all of them without a word, heading straight to my office, the one room in the house that was completely mine, with a lock on the door and a strict, no entry without permission policy that everyone respected because I'd made it clear early on that this was my space. I closed the door, locked it, and opened my laptop. Then I pulled up the spreadsheet I'd started in the hospital parking lot. See, while everyone else was sleeping or drinking or posting on social media, I'd been working, making lists, checking accounts, reviewing documents, getting all my ducks in a row, except these ducks were more like heat-seeking missiles. Everything, and I mean everything, was in my name. The house, mine. The utilities, mine. The car Evelyn drove, technically mine, gifted to her, but never properly transferred. The rental property Nora had been living in temporarily for 3 years, also mine. I'd spent the last decade being the provider, the responsible one, the guy who handled all the boring adult stuff while everyone else just enjoyed the benefits. And now? Now it was time for an audit. I started with the credit cards. The shared vacation card that had paid for those margaritas? Canceled. Done. Finito. One phone call, and suddenly their peace was going to cost them out of pocket. Next, I called my bank. The household account, the one everyone had access to for groceries, gas, miscellaneous expenses, got frozen. Not closed, just frozen. If anyone wanted to make a purchase, they'd need my approval. My signature. My permission. Let's see how long the peace lasts when they can't buy their overpriced lattes. I spent the next 2 hours going through everything systematically, making changes, sending emails, documenting everything, because I'm not an idiot and I know that paper trails matter. By the time I was done, I'd essentially restructured our entire financial ecosystem, and nobody downstairs had any idea. I could hear them out there, living their lives, completely oblivious to the fact that their world was about to get significantly more complicated. Harper knocked on the door around 10 p.m. Dinner's ready. Are you coming out? I saved my documents, closed my laptop, and unlocked the door. Yeah, I'll be right there. She looked at me with those worried eyes again. What were you doing in there? I kissed her forehead. Just organizing some files. Boring work stuff. We had dinner. Harper's stress cooking had produced enough pasta to feed a small army, and everyone ate in silence, which was honestly the most peaceful meal we'd had in years. Evelyn went to bed early, complaining about being exhausted from the ordeal. Nora left shortly after, heading back to her rent-free apartment, completely unaware that her free ride was about to end. And me? I cleaned up the kitchen, made sure Lily was settled, and went to bed with a smile on my face. They wanted peace without the pathetic drama king? Perfect. I was about to give them so much peace they'd be drowning in it. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I prefer to think of it as slow-cooked. Low heat, long patience, and a result so tender it falls right off the bone. The thing about quiet revenge is that nobody sees it coming until they're already choking on it, and by then, it's way too late to spit it out. Monday morning started like any other day, except I was walking around the house with the kind of calm that comes from knowing exactly what you're doing while everyone else is stumbling around in the dark. I made coffee, the good stuff, not the garbage Evelyn bought that tasted like burnt regret, and sat at the kitchen table scrolling through my phone like I didn't have a care in the world. Evelyn came downstairs in her bathrobe, the expensive silk one that I'd bought her for Christmas 2 years ago, back when I still thought gift-giving might earn me some basic human decency. She poured herself coffee and wrinkled her nose. This tastes different. Did you change brands? Nope, I said, not looking up from my phone. Same brand as always. No, she said, which in Evelyn speak meant, I don't believe you. But I'm going to pretend I do so I can complain about it later to someone else. Harper was getting ready for work. She's a graphic designer for a marketing firm downtown. One of those jobs that sounds creative and fun until you realize it's actually just making endless revisions for clients who think Comic Sans is still acceptable. And she came into the kitchen looking stressed already, which was pretty much her default state these days. I'm taking Lily to her follow-up appointment at 11, I said. The pediatrician wants to check her hydration levels and make sure everything's normalized. Oh God, I should come with you, Harper said, immediately reaching for her phone to text her boss. Don't, I said. You've already missed 3 days of work because of the hospital. I've got this. You know I've got this. She looked at me with this mixture of gratitude and concern, like she wanted to argue, but also knew I was right. Are you sure? Harper, I successfully kept a human alive for 12 years. I think I can handle a doctor's appointment. You had help with that human, she said, but she was smiling, which was the first genuine smile I'd seen from her since before the vacation. Fine. We had help, but I'm pretty sure I pulled at least 40% of the weight. 60-40, she said. Sold. Evelyn was watching this exchange with her classic expression of disapproval, like we were speaking a language she didn't understand but was offended by anyway. You're really going to let him take her alone? Harper's smile dropped immediately. Mom, he's her father. I know that, I just meant. What did you mean, Evelyn? I asked, finally looking up from my phone. My voice was pleasant, cheerful even, but there was steel underneath it. Please, elaborate. I'm genuinely curious about what you think I might screw up. She did that thing where she clutched her pearls, not literal pearls, though she definitely owned some, and said, I didn't mean anything by it. I'm just saying that a mother's touch wasn't present during the actual emergency. I finished for her. But hey, those margaritas looked refreshing. The kitchen went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop, or in this case, heard the sound of Evelyn's blood pressure spiking. Harper closed her eyes like she was praying for divine intervention. Can we not do this right now? You're absolutely right, I said, standing up and putting my mug in the sink. We've got places to be, people to see, doctor's appointments to attend. I went upstairs to check on Lily, who was already dressed and reading a book on her bed. Kid's a bookworm, which I love because it means she inherited at least some of my good qualities and not just Harper's inability to parallel park. Ready to go, kiddo? Do I have to get more blood drawn? She asked, looking up from her book with concern. Probably just a finger prick to check your levels. Nothing major. She made a face. I hate needles. I know. But you know what we do after doctor's appointments where there are needles? Her face lit up. Ice cream. Ice cream, I confirmed. The good place, too. Not the chain restaurant nonsense. The local spot with the weird flavors. Yes. She jumped up and grabbed her backpack, because apparently, you can't go anywhere without a backpack when you're 12, even if it's just to the doctor's office. We left through the garage, and as I was backing out, I saw Evelyn standing at the kitchen window watching us leave. She had this expression on her face that I couldn't quite read, somewhere between confusion and concern, and I realized that maybe, just maybe, she was starting to sense that something had shifted. Good. The doctor's appointment went smoothly. Dr. Martinez, great guy, been our pediatrician since Lily was born, once told me he became a children's doctor because adults were too complicated. Checked Lily over, declared her hydration levels back to normal, and gave her a high five that she pretended was too childish for her, but secretly loved. Keep doing what you're doing, he told me as we were leaving. She's a healthy kid. Just make sure she's drinking plenty of water, especially in this heat. Will do, Doc. And hey, he added, lowering his voice so Lily couldn't hear from where she was checking out the fish tank in the waiting room. I saw that social media situation. My wife showed me. For what it's worth, you're handling it better than I would have. I smiled. Who says I'm handling it? He laughed. Fair enough. Good luck with whatever you're planning. We went to the ice cream place, this local spot called The Scoop that makes flavors like lavender honey and bourbon pecan, the kind of place that makes you feel sophisticated for eating ice cream at 11:30 in the morning. Lily got something called Birthday Cake Explosion that had more colors than a pride parade, and I got coffee ice cream because I'm boring and predictable and okay with both of those things. We sat outside at one of those little metal tables that are always slightly wobbly, and Lily was talking about school and her friends and some drama involving who was sitting with who at lunch, and I was only half listening because my phone buzzed. It was a text from Nora. "Hey, my card got declined at Target. Can you check if there's an issue with the account?" I looked at that message for a solid 10 seconds, watching Lily enthusiastically destroy her ice cream cone, and then I typed back. "Which card?" "The vacation one. The Visa." "Oh, that card. Yeah, I canceled it." 3 dots appeared immediately, indicating she was typing. Then they disappeared. Then they appeared again. This went on for about 30 seconds, the digital equivalent of sputtering in disbelief, before my phone actually rang. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "Hey, Nora, did you seriously cancel the card?" She sounded breathless, like she'd just run a marathon. Except the marathon was realizing that actions have consequences. "I did," I said pleasantly. Seemed like the responsible thing to do after someone used it to purchase alcoholic beverages while my daughter was in the hospital. We didn't. It wasn't like that. Wasn't it? Because I've got the bank statement right here, and it clearly shows 2 margaritas at Jimmy's Beach Bar, charged at 2:47 p.m. on Saturday. About an hour after Lily collapsed. But please, tell me what it was like. Silence on the other end. "Here's the thing, Nora," I continued, my voice still friendly, still casual, like we were discussing the weather. "That card was in my name. My account. My liability. And I've decided I don't want to be liable for drinks purchased during family medical emergencies anymore. Call me crazy." "You're being ridiculous," she said, but her voice had lost its edge. She knew she didn't have a leg to stand on. "Maybe," I agreed. "But I'm ridiculous with good credit, so I'll survive. Good luck at Target." "I hear they take cash." I hung up before she could respond, and honestly, it felt better than it probably should have. Lily was looking at me with wide eyes. "Was that Aunt Nora?" "Yep." "Is she mad?" "Probably." "Good," Lily said, and went back to her ice cream. That afternoon, I made another call, this one to my bank manager, a guy named Dennis who I'd been working with for about 8 years and who owed me a favor after I'd helped him fix his website for free. Dennis was good people, the kind of guy who actually listened instead of just trying to upsell you on credit cards you didn't need. "Dennis, my man," I said when he picked up, "I need to make some changes to the household account." "Sure thing. What are we looking at?" "I need to freeze it. Temporarily. Nothing coming out without my explicit approval." There was a pause. "Everything okay?" "Family stuff," I said, which was both true and completely inadequate. "Just need to have a little more control over things for a while." "Say no more. I'll flag the account right now. You'll get a notification for any attempted transactions, and nothing processes without your sign-off." "You're a saint, Dennis. I'm a banker, but I appreciate the sentiment." That evening, I took my time making dinner, homemade pizza from scratch, because Lily had requested it, and because there's something therapeutic about kneading dough when you're systematically dismantling people's financial comfort zones. Harper came home from work looking exhausted. Evelyn emerged from wherever she'd been hiding all day, and we all sat down to eat like a normal, functional family. Except we weren't normal, and we definitely weren't functional, and the timer on this little charade was rapidly ticking down to 0. "This is delicious," Harper said, and she meant it, which made me feel good because at least I was still succeeding at something. "It's a bit greasy," Evelyn said, because of course it was. My phone buzzed. Another text from Nora. "The grocery store card isn't working either. What's going on?" I took a bite of pizza, chewed slowly, and didn't respond. Let her wonder. Let them all wonder. Because the thing about quiet revenge, the really beautiful thing about it, is that they don't know what's happening until it's already happened. And by the time they figure it out, you're already 3 moves ahead, sitting at your kitchen table eating homemade pizza with your daughter, watching everything fall into place exactly as planned. Checkmate takes time, but God, is it worth the wait? You know what's funny about social media? And by funny, I mean absolutely terrifying in a Black Mirror kind of way. It's that people will believe literally anything you post, as long as you phrase it correctly. Give them the right amount of vulnerability, a touch of gratitude, and just enough context clues, and they'll connect the dots themselves. You don't even have to spell it out. They'll do it for you. Wednesday morning, I was drinking my coffee and scrolling through Facebook, which I normally avoid because it's basically just a retirement home for millennials and a place where your aunt shares minion memes, when I decided it was time to make my own post. Now, I'm not a social media guy. My profile picture is from 2019. I've got maybe 70 friends, half of whom I don't actually know. And my last post before this was a picture of a sandwich I made in 2023 that got 4 likes, 3 of which were probably accidents. So when I posted something new, people were going to notice. I'd taken a photo of Lily the day before, right after her doctor's appointment. She was sitting in the car, eating her ice cream, giving the camera a thumbs up with this huge smile on her face that just radiated, "I'm alive and everything's okay." It was perfect, innocent, wholesome, the kind of photo that could melt a heart made of stone. I uploaded it to Facebook, and then I wrote the caption. I must have edited it 15 times, tweaking words, adjusting punctuation, making sure the tone was exactly right. Not too angry, that would make me look petty. Not too sad, that would make me look weak. Just the right amount of grateful with a tiny hint of something else, something that would make people think. The final version read, "Thank you to all the amazing nurses and doctors at Clearwater General who helped our daughter Lily recover from her medical emergency this past weekend. Special thanks to the medical staff who stayed by her side, while some family members were busy finding peace elsewhere. We're grateful she's home safe, healthy, and surrounded by people who actually showed up when it mattered. Hashtag blessed, hashtag family first, hashtag actually showing up." I read it one more time, hovering my finger over the post button like I was about to launch a nuclear missile. Because that's essentially what this was, a carefully targeted strike designed to cause maximum damage with minimal effort. Harper walked into the kitchen and saw me staring at my phone. "What are you doing?" "Just posting a picture of Lily." "That's nice," she said, pouring herself coffee. "Let me see." I showed her my phone, and I watched her face change as she read the caption. Her eyes got wider with each sentence, and by the time she finished, she looked like she'd just witnessed a car accident in slow motion. "You're not actually going to post that," she said. "Why not? It's all true. I am grateful to the nurses. Lily is home safe, and some family members were busy finding peace elsewhere. That's just facts. Those aren't just facts, and you know it. That's a targeted missile disguised as a gratitude post." I smiled. "Is it though? You didn't name anyone." "Exactly. I didn't name anyone. So if people draw their own conclusions, that's on them, not me." She set down her coffee cup and gave me that look, the one that said she was equal parts impressed and terrified. "You've really thought this through, haven't you?" "Harper, I've thought about nothing else for 3 days. My mother is going to lose her mind." "Good," I said, and then I pressed post. The thing about social media is that it moves fast. Like, frighteningly fast. Within 10 minutes, I had 20 likes. Within 30 minutes, I had 50 likes and a dozen comments. All variations of "so glad she's okay," and "praying for your family," and "those nurses are angels." But then someone, I think it was Harper's cousin Rachel, who's always been more observant than people give her credit for, commented, "Wait, weren't Evelyn and Nora with you guys on that trip?" And that's when things got interesting. Because suddenly, people started doing math. They started scrolling back through timelines. They started finding that margarita post that Evelyn had deleted, but that the internet never forgets because someone always screenshots everything. Within an hour, that screenshot was being shared in the comments section of my post with captions like, "This you," and found the piece they were talking about. I sat there watching it unfold like I was watching a nature documentary. And here we observe the internet in its natural habitat, tearing apart someone's reputation in real time. Fascinating. Harper was pacing around the kitchen. "This is going to cause a massive fight." "Probably. My mother is going to call me crying." "Definitely. And you're okay with that?" I looked up at her. "Harper, your mother called me pathetic while our daughter was in the hospital. Your sister, my sister, laughed about it and bought a second margarita. So yeah, I'm okay with them experiencing approximately 1/10 of the discomfort they caused us." She didn't have a response to that, because what could she say? I was right, and she knew it. By noon, Evelyn's friends were turning on her. These church ladies who'd known her for 20 years were suddenly commenting things like, very disappointed in this behavior, and our prayers are with that poor man and his daughter, and my personal favorite. Matthew 7 verse 1. Judge not, lest ye be judged. Nothing hits quite like getting Bible verses weaponized against you by your own congregation. Nora, being the genius she is, decided to go private on Instagram. Just straight up locked down her account, which is the digital equivalent of running away and hiding under your bed. Except going private after a scandal is basically admitting guilt, and everyone knows it. It's like pleading the fifth, legally allowed, but it makes you look suspicious as hell. Evelyn tried a different approach. She deactivated her Facebook entirely, which meant all her posts disappeared, including the margarita one. But see, that's the thing about the internet. It doesn't forget. People had screenshots, multiple people, and they were sharing them like Pokemon cards. I was sitting at my desk in my office, supposedly working on a project for a client, but actually just refreshing my Facebook feed and watching the comments roll in when my phone rang. Unknown number, which I normally don't answer, but I was feeling adventurous. Hello. How dare you? It was Evelyn, and she sounded like she was vibrating with rage. How dare you publicly humiliate me like this? I'm sorry, who is this? I asked, because I'm petty and I was enjoying myself. You know exactly who this is. That post, that horrible, vindictive post. Everyone thinks I'm a monster. Did I mention you in the post? You didn't have to. Everyone knows what you were implying. So you're admitting that when I talk about family members who were busy finding peace elsewhere, you immediately assume I'm talking about you? That's interesting. That's a really interesting admission, Evelyn. I could hear her breathing heavily on the other end of the line, trying to formulate a response that wouldn't further incriminate her. I want you to delete it, she finally said. Delete that post right now. No. Excuse me. I said no. It's my Facebook page. My photo of my daughter. My gratitude toward medical professionals who actually did their jobs. I'm not deleting anything. This is slander. It's actually not, because I didn't name you, and everything I said was true. But hey, if you want to hire a lawyer and explain to them why you're suing someone for thanking hospital staff, be my guest. I'm sure that'll go great for you. She hung up on me, which was probably for the best, because I was about 3 seconds away from laughing directly into the phone. 20 minutes later, Nora texted me. Not called, texted, because confrontation over the phone requires actual courage. You're ruining our lives over one stupid post. Is this really necessary? I texted back. Was it necessary to post about finding peace while Lily was in the hospital? That was different. You're right. That was worse. We made a mistake. People make mistakes. And people face consequences for those mistakes. Welcome to adulting. It's not as fun as Instagram makes it look. She didn't respond after that, which was fine because I was done explaining basic human decency to someone who thought positive vibes only was a legitimate life philosophy. That evening at dinner, the atmosphere was different. Harper was quiet, but it wasn't the stressed-out quiet from before. It was more contemplative, like she was processing something. Lily was oblivious, talking about her day and some TikTok video her friend had sent her about a cat that could apparently predict earthquakes. Dad, she said between bites of chicken. Jessica's mom asked if you were the guy from that Facebook post that's going around. I nearly choked on my water. What? Yeah, apparently it's been shared like 1,000 times. Jessica said her mom called Grandma a prime example of what not to do in a crisis. Harper put her head in her hands. What did you tell Jessica? I asked. Lily shrugged. I said, yeah, that's my dad. And he's actually really nice even though Grandma and Aunt Nora think he's dramatic. Then Jessica said her mom thinks you're a hero for standing up for yourself. A hero seems excessive, I said, but I was smiling. That's what I said. I told her you're just regular mad, not like superhero mad. Thanks for the clarification, kiddo. After dinner, I checked the post one more time. Over 300 likes, 70 plus comments, almost all of them supportive. A few people had even started sharing articles about toxic family dynamics and the importance of setting boundaries, which felt like overkill, but also kind of validating. Harper found me in the office later that night. My mother called me 17 times today. Did you answer? On the 18th call, she wanted me to make you delete the post. And I told her I couldn't make you do anything, which is true. But also, she paused, biting her lip. I told her maybe she should think about why that post bothered her so much. If she didn't do anything wrong, Why is she so upset about people knowing what happened? I stood up and hugged her, because that was probably the hardest thing she'd ever said to her mother, and I knew it. I'm proud of you, I whispered into her hair. I'm terrified, she whispered back. That's how you know you're doing the right thing. That night, lying in bed, I checked my phone one last time. The post was still up, still getting likes, still spreading like wildfire through our extended social network. And somewhere out there, Evelyn and Nora were learning a valuable lesson. The internet never forgets, screenshots are forever, and you should never, ever underestimate the quiet guy who knows his way around social media. I fell asleep smiling, dreaming of margaritas I'd never have to buy. There's a certain kind of satisfaction that comes from realizing you've been holding all the cards the entire time and nobody else knew it. It's like playing poker with people who don't understand poker, except instead of chips, you're betting with cars and real estate. And instead of bluffing, you're just reading the actual rulebook that nobody else bothered to look at. Thursday morning, while the internet was still having a field day with Evelyn and Nora's greatest hits, I was sitting in my office doing something way more productive than watching comment sections explode. I was going through my filing cabinet. Now, I know what you're thinking. Filing cabinets are boring. They're the physical embodiment of adulting that nobody wants to do. But here's the thing about being organized and keeping records of everything. When the time comes to prove something or reclaim something or generally make someone's life complicated, you've got receipts. Literal receipts. I pulled out the file labeled Vehicle, Honda Accord 2022, and smiled. This was Evelyn's car, or at least, the car she'd been driving for the past 2 years like it belonged to her. I'd bought it for her birthday because Harper had begged me, saying her mother's old car was on its last legs, and it would be such a meaningful gift. So like an idiot who occasionally tries to buy his way into his mother-in-law's good graces, I dropped 35 grand on a Honda Accord with all the bells and whistles. Leather seats, sunroof, that fancy backup camera that beeps at you when you're about to hit something. The works. The title was in my name. The insurance was in my name. Evelyn's name wasn't on any documentation anywhere because she was supposed to transfer everything over within 60 days. But, shocker, she never did. Which meant legally, I own that car. Completely. Totally. Without question. I called my insurance company first. Got connected to a representative named Tammy who sounded like she'd had about 6 cups of coffee and was ready to process paperwork at superhuman speeds. Hi, Tammy. I need to remove a vehicle from my policy. Sure thing. Which vehicle are we removing? The 2022 Honda Accord. Okay. And is there a reason for the removal? Selling it, totaling it, or just not using it anymore? Reclaiming it, actually. It's been in someone else's possession, but the title's in my name, and I'm taking it back. Oh, Tammy said, and I could hear the curiosity in her voice. Family situation? You could say that. Say no more. I've got 3 ex-husbands. I understand completely. Give me 2 minutes. God bless Tammy and her 3 ex-husbands. Within 5 minutes, the insurance was canceled on that car, which meant Evelyn was now driving around an uninsured vehicle, which is both illegal and incredibly stupid. But I'm a generous guy, so I sent her a text. FYI, insurance on the Accord has been canceled. You're driving uninsured. Thought you should know before you get pulled over. She called immediately. I let it ring. Then she texted, "You can't do this." I texted back, "Actually, I can. It's my car. Check the title. Harper gave me that car. Harper convinced me to buy you that car." Important distinction. The name on all the paperwork is mine. Always has been. This is theft. It's actually the opposite of theft. It's me taking back my own property. But I'm sure your lawyer would love to hear your version. She stopped responding after that, probably because she'd consulted Google and realized I was right. Or maybe she'd called an actual lawyer who'd told her she didn't have a case. Either way, the silence was golden. Next up, Nora and her rent-free paradise. See, about 3 years ago, Nora had hit what she called a rough patch, which was her way of saying she'd quit her job to pursue her influencer dreams and discovered that 17 followers and a ring light from Amazon don't actually pay rent. She'd asked if she could stay in one of my rental properties just for a couple months while she got back on her feet. Those couple months turned into 3 years. 3 years of no rent, no utilities, nothing. Just Nora living in a 2-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood, posting selfies and occasionally working part-time at a juice bar where she got paid in smoothies and exposure. The property was worth about $1,800 a month in rent, which meant over 3 years, she'd live there for free to the tune of approximately $64,800. $64,000. That's a nice car. That's a down payment on a house. That's Lily's college fund getting significantly dented because I was trying to be a good brother. I pulled up the rental agreement, which was basically just a handwritten note that said temporary arrangement, no formal lease, and drafted a proper 30-day notice. I kept it professional, cordial even, because the best revenge is the kind that can't be argued with in court. Dear Nora, this letter serves as official notice that the temporary housing arrangement at 847 Maple Street, Unit 3B, will be terminated effective 30 days from the date of this notice. As there is no formal lease agreement in place, and this was always intended as a short-term solution, I am exercising my right as property owner to reclaim the unit. You have until November 26, 2025 to vacate the premises. All personal belongings must be removed by this date. The property should be returned in the same condition it was provided, normal wear and tear accepted. Thank you for your understanding. Best regards. My name. Then, because I'm petty and I earned it, I added a smiley face emoji at the very bottom. Just a little smiling face with smiling eyes sitting there like a cherry on top of a sundae made of consequences. I took a picture of the notice, printed out an official copy to mail via certified mail, because paper trails matter, and texted her the image. Her response came in about 30 seconds. You're joking, right? I checked my calendar. I only joke on weekends. This is Tuesday. You can't just kick me out. Actually, I can. There's no lease. This was temporary. Temporary expired about 2.5 years ago. I have nowhere to go. That's unfortunate. Might I suggest finding a place that accepts whatever currency you've been using for the past 3 years? Oh wait, that was my generosity. Guess you'll need to find actual money now. This is because of the Facebook post, isn't it? You're punishing me for one mistake. I sat there looking at that message for a solid minute, feeling my blood pressure rise slightly before forcing it back down. Nora, the Facebook post was the final straw. The free ride was already ridiculous. You're 32 years old. You've been living rent-free in my property for 3 years. Most people would have ended this after 3 months. I gave you 3 years. So no, this isn't punishment. This is me finally enforcing boundaries that should have existed a long time ago. Mom is going to hear about this. Mom doesn't pay your rent either, so I'm not sure how that's relevant. But please, do tell her. I'm sure she'll have some thoughts while she's figuring out her own car situation. I put my phone on silent after that because I had actual work to do. You know, the kind of work that pays for rental properties that apparently anyone can just live in indefinitely if they ask nicely enough. That evening, I decided to make pancakes for dinner. Not breakfast for dinner in that lazy, I don't feel like cooking a real meal way, but in the I'm celebrating and pancakes are festive way. I made them from scratch, none of that box mix garbage, with buttermilk and vanilla extract and a secret ingredient, cinnamon. That makes them taste like they came from a restaurant. Lily was doing homework at the kitchen table and looked up when she smelled the batter. Pancakes? On a Thursday? Why not? You feeling okay? All hydrated. Dad, it's been like a week. I'm fine. You can stop asking if I've had water every 30 minutes. Never, I said, flipping a pancake with probably too much flourish. That's my job. I'm going to ask if you've had water until you're 40. That's only 28 more years of harassment. Exactly. I've got endurance. Harper came home from work and stopped in the doorway, staring at the scene like she'd walked into an alternate dimension. Are those pancakes? Your observation skills are remarkable. For dinner. Is there a law against pancakes for dinner? Did I miss that legislation? She set down her bag and walked over, wrapping her arms around me from behind while I cooked. What's going on? I'm making pancakes. Sometimes a pancake is just a pancake. And sometimes a pancake is a celebration, she said quietly. What are we celebrating? The fact that our daughter is healthy, our family is eating together, and nobody is starting an argument about air conditioning temperature or why my meatloaf has character. She laughed, actually laughed, and it sounded like music. Fair enough. We sat down to eat, just the 3 of us, and it was the most peaceful dinner we'd had in months. Maybe years. There was no tension, no passive-aggressive comments about portion sizes or parenting choices. Just a family eating pancakes and talking about normal things like school projects and TV shows and whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Lily says yes. Harper says no. I'm Switzerland on the issue. Harper kept looking at me throughout dinner with this expression I couldn't quite read. It wasn't suspicion exactly. More like realization. Like she was seeing me clearly for the first time in a long time, and understanding that the quiet guy who usually just went along to get along had a backbone made of steel that he'd just been choosing not to display. After dinner, after Lily went upstairs to video chat with her friends about whatever 12-year-olds video chat about, Harper and I were doing dishes, her washing, me drying, the most domestic scene imaginable, when she said, "You reclaimed the car." I did. And you're evicting Nora. I'm ending a temporary arrangement that became permanent without my consent. Same thing. Semantics. She handed me a plate. I didn't know you could be like this. Like what? Strategic. Methodical. Kind of scary, honestly. I dried the plate carefully. I've always been like this. You just never saw it because I never had a reason to use it. I spent 10 years being accommodating and flexible and letting things slide because I thought that's what you needed. But then your family called me pathetic while our daughter was in the hospital, and I realized, I'm done accommodating people who don't respect me. She turned off the water and looked at me, really looked at me. I spent so long trying to keep everyone happy that I forgot you needed someone in your corner too. You've always been in my corner. Not enough. Not visibly enough. I let my mother and your sister treat you like you were less than, and I told myself I was keeping the peace. But I wasn't. I was just avoiding conflict. Harper. No, let me finish. What you're doing, the post, the car, the apartment, it's not revenge. It's accountability. And I should have backed you up on this years ago. I pulled her into a hug right there in our kitchen, with soap suds still on her hands and dish water dripping onto the floor. Better late than never. Your pancakes were really good, she whispered. I know. And for the first time in a week, maybe longer, everything felt right. You ever spend time meticulously planning something and then get so excited about the execution that you can barely sleep? That was me on Friday night. I was like a kid on Christmas Eve, except instead of waiting for Santa, I was waiting to watch two grown adults discover that actions have consequences and consequences have paperwork. I'd spent the better part of Friday afternoon preparing what I can only describe as a care package from hell. Nothing illegal, nothing unethical, just cold, hard documentation presented in a way that would make a lawyer weep with joy at how thoroughly everything was covered. I went to Office Depot, because where else do you go when you need to print the physical manifestation of someone's mistakes, and bought one of those big brown manila envelopes. The heavy-duty kind that says, "This is official business," without needing to say anything at all. Then I printed everything on proper cardstock, not regular printer paper, because if you're going to serve someone a reality check, it should at least look professional. The contents of my little gift basket included a printed screenshot of the Margarita Post, complete with timestamp and geolocation data, showing they were at Jimmy's Beach Bar exactly 1.3 miles from the hospital where Lily was being treated. I'd even highlighted the caption in yellow, "Finally having peace without the pathetic drama queen," because sometimes you need visual aids. A copy of the 30-day eviction notice for Nora, signed, dated, and notarized because I'm nothing if not thorough. I'd included a helpful spreadsheet showing exactly how much free rent she'd received over 3 years, $64,800, just in case she wanted to reflect on her savings. The car repossession documentation for Evelyn, including copies of the title, in my name, the original purchase receipt, my credit card, and the insurance cancellation confirmation. I'd paperclipped a printout of Florida vehicle laws regarding ownership and operation of uninsured vehicles, with the relevant sections highlighted. And finally, a handwritten note on my personal stationery, because I'm petty but I have standards, that simply read, "Peace granted." Indefinitely. I arranged everything in the envelope with the care of someone assembling a bomb, which, in a metaphorical sense, I guess I was. Then I sealed it and wrote on the front in my neatest handwriting, "For the Queens of Peace." Saturday morning, Harper woke up to find me already dressed and drinking coffee with an expression that she later described as disturbingly cheerful. "What are you planning?" she asked, eyeing me suspiciously. "Me? I'm not planning anything. The planning is done. Now we're in the execution phase." That's not reassuring. It's not supposed to be. Evelyn and Nora had announced on Friday that they were going shopping Saturday morning. Some big sale at the outlet mall about 40 minutes away. They'd invited Harper, who declined faster than a person swiping left on a dating app, claiming she had work stuff to catch up on, which was code for, I don't want to be an accessory to whatever's about to happen. They left around 9 a.m., with Evelyn driving. Well, attempting to drive. The Honda that was no longer insured and that I could legally reclaim at any moment. I watched from the kitchen window as they pulled out of the driveway. Nora in the passenger seat, probably already planning her Instagram content for the day, completely oblivious to the fact that their lives were about to get significantly more complicated. I waited exactly 30 seconds after they left, then walked over to the kitchen table and placed the envelope right in the center. Not off to the side where it might be missed. Not under something else. Dead center, impossible to ignore, like a centerpiece at a dinner party except instead of flowers, it was documentation of their own behavior. Lily came downstairs and saw it immediately. What's that? A gift. For who? Grandma and Aunt Nora. She walked over and read the label, then looked at me with eyes that were way too knowing for a 12-year-old. You're really doing this, huh? Doing what? I'm just leaving some important documents for them to review. Dad, you wrote Queens of Peace on the envelope. That's not subtle. Who said I was trying to be subtle? She grinned, this huge, delighted grin that made her look like she'd just gotten away with something mischievous, and said, Can I watch when they open it? Absolutely not. You have soccer practice at 11. Ah, come on. This is way better than soccer. Nice try, but you're not missing practice to watch adult drama unfold. That's not healthy. You're watching it unfold. I'm an adult. I'm allowed to make unhealthy choices. It's one of the perks of paying taxes. Harper drove Lily to soccer practice, and before she left, she stopped in front of the envelope and just stared at it for a solid 15 seconds. This is really happening, she said. Yep. You know there's no going back after this, right? This is nuclear. Harper, they went nuclear when they posted that picture. I'm just returning fire with properly documented evidence. She kissed my cheek. I'll have my phone on me. Text me when you know. When it happens. Will do. After they left, I settled into the living room with my laptop, positioning myself so I had a clear view of both the front door and the kitchen table. I pulled up Netflix and started watching some documentary about people who climb mountains without ropes, because apparently, I enjoy watching other people make questionable life choices while I'm making my own. Around 1 p.m., I heard the car pull into the driveway. The doors slammed. Evelyn always slammed car doors like they'd personally offended her, and I could hear them talking as they came up the walkway. And I told her, that dress makes you look desperate, not elegant, Evelyn was saying. Mom, you can't just tell people that, Nora replied, but she was laughing. They came through the front door carrying shopping bags from stores I didn't recognize and couldn't afford, and I nodded at them from the couch without pausing my documentary. Have a good time? I asked pleasantly. It was fine, Evelyn said in that tone that meant it actually wasn't fine, but she'd complain about it later to someone else. They headed toward the kitchen to set down their bags, and I turned up the volume on my documentary just slightly so I could pretend I was engrossed in it while actually listening intently to what was about to happen. There was silence for about 5 seconds. Then Nora's voice. What's this? More silence. I imagined them staring at the envelope, reading the label, trying to decide whether to open it or pretend they hadn't seen it. Did he leave this? Evelyn asked, her voice already taking on that sharp edge that meant she was getting defensive before she even knew what she was defending against. Who else would write Queens of Peace? Nora said. Should we open it? Of course we should open it. It's probably just him being dramatic again. I heard the envelope being torn open. Evelyn had never been good at opening things carefully, and then rustling of papers. More silence. Longer this time. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like the air pressure changed and everyone's ears just popped simultaneously. Then, what the? That was Nora. Her voice had this quality to it that I can only describe as someone realizing they've been playing checkers while everyone else was playing chess. He can't do this, Evelyn said, but her voice was shaking. He can't just. There's a spreadsheet, Nora said, and she sounded like she was reading from a script in a horror movie. Mom, there's a spreadsheet showing how much rent I haven't paid. It's like $60,000. $64,800. I called from the living room, not looking away from my documentary. Rounding errors matter. You. Evelyn appeared in the doorway to the living room, clutching the papers like they were evidence at a murder trial, which I guess in a way they were. Her face was red, not the cute, embarrassed red, more like the my blood pressure just hit the stratosphere red. This is ridiculous. You can't repossess my car. It's not your car, I said calmly, finally pausing the documentary because this was too good to miss. It's my car. Always has been. Check the title. Oh wait, you did. It's in the envelope. Harper gave me that car. Harper suggested I buy you that car. I bought it. My name, my money, my car. You were supposed to transfer everything over within 60 days. That was 2 years ago. So technically, you've been driving my car without permission for approximately 23 months. Nora came into the living room holding the eviction notice like it was contaminated. You're kicking me out? Where am I supposed to go? That's a great question. Maybe you should have asked yourself that 3 years ago when you decided temporary meant indefinite. I'm your sister, and you called me a pathetic drama queen on Facebook while my daughter was in the hospital. Being related doesn't give you a free pass to treat me like garbage and live rent-free in my property. This is about that stupid post? Evelyn's voice had reached that pitch that only dogs and guilty people can hear. You're destroying our lives over a social media post? I stood up then, slowly, and I could feel something shift in the room. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't even particularly angry anymore. I was just done. No, Evelyn. I'm setting boundaries that should have existed years ago. The post was just the moment I realized I've been enabling your behavior by being too nice, too accommodating, too willing to let things slide, because I thought that's what family did. But family doesn't post margarita pictures while a 12-year-old is in the hospital. Family doesn't call each other pathetic. And family sure as hell doesn't take advantage of someone's generosity for years and then act shocked when that generosity runs out. This is cruel, she said, and I swear I could see tears forming. Real or manufactured, I couldn't tell and didn't particularly care. No, cruel was your behavior last weekend. This is accountability. There's a difference. Nora threw the eviction notice onto the coffee table. I can't believe you're doing this. Really? You can't believe it? After everything, you're genuinely surprised that actions have consequences? They both just stood there, looking at me like I'd grown a second head, and I realized that in all the years they'd known me, they'd never actually seen me stand up for myself. They'd seen me accommodate, compromise, bend over backward to keep the peace. But they'd never seen me draw a line and defend it. Harper had been right. This was scary, for them, anyway. For me, it felt like finally exhaling after holding my breath for a decade. The note says, peace granted. Indefinitely, Evelyn read from the paper, her voice dripping with sarcasm. What's that supposed to mean? I smiled. It means you wanted peace without the pathetic drama king. So I'm granting your wish. You can have all the peace you want, away from me, my family, my property, and my resources. Enjoy it. From somewhere outside, I heard Harper's car pull into the driveway. She must have gotten my text. I'd sent it the moment I heard the envelope being opened. Bomb detonated. Come home. The front door opened, and Harper walked in with Lily, who took one look at the scene and whispered, "Oh man, I missed it." Language, Harper said automatically, but she was looking at her mother and sister with an expression I'd never seen before. Not quite pity, not quite anger. Something in between. Harper. Evelyn turned to her daughter like she was a life raft in a stormy sea. Talk to him. Make him stop this insanity. Harper set down her purse very carefully, walked past her mother and sister without acknowledging them, came straight to me, and kissed me. Right there, in front of everyone. Then she turned around and said, "No." Just that one word. Simple. Final. Devastating. "No." Evelyn repeated, like she didn't understand the language. "No, I won't talk to him. Because he's right. And I should have said something years ago." The silence that followed was so profound you could have heard a pin drop in the next county. You know what's wild about small towns? Well, suburbs, technically, but they function like small towns when it comes to gossip. Information spreads faster than a grease fire in a kitchen full of paper towels. One minute you're having a private confrontation in your living room, and the next minute, the entire neighborhood knows that Evelyn Patterson got served a reality check with a side of documentation. I'm not sure who leaked it first. Maybe it was Harper's cousin Rachel, who has a PhD in other people's business and treats social drama like it's her dissertation. Maybe it was someone from Evelyn's church who'd already seen the margarita post and was just waiting for the next installment of this particular train wreck. Or maybe, and this is my personal theory, the universe just decided that Evelyn and Nora's downfall needed a bigger audience. By Sunday morning, my phone was blowing up with texts from people I hadn't heard from in months. My college roommate sent me a message that just said BRO, followed by 17 flame emojis. My Aunt Grace, the only sane relative on my side of the family, called me laughing so hard she could barely breathe and said, "I always knew you had it in you. I just didn't know you'd be so elegant about it." Elegant? I said. I literally wrote Queens of Peace on an envelope. Exactly. Elegant savagery. It's an art form. But the real entertainment came from watching Evelyn try to control the narrative. See, she's one of those people who's deeply invested in her reputation. She's on 3 church committees, volunteers at the community center, and has spent years cultivating this image of herself as a pillar of the community. You know, the kind of person who brings homemade casseroles to funerals and always knows exactly which Bible verse to quote for maximum impact. So when word got out about what had actually happened at Clearwater Beach, and then what had happened with the envelope, her carefully constructed image started cracking like a windshield after a rock hit. Sunday morning, she went to church. Because of course she did. Evelyn would go to church during the apocalypse, probably to complain about the quality of the horsemen. Harper had warned me that her mother was planning to set the record straight with their congregation, which I knew was code for spin this story so hard it could generate renewable energy. I didn't go to church. I'm more of a spiritual but sleeping in on Sundays kind of guy. But Harper went, mostly because she wanted to witness whatever was about to happen. She took Lily with her, told me to stay home and avoid adding fuel to the fire, which I interpreted as please don't show up and make this worse by existing. They got back around noon, and Harper walked in with this expression that I can only describe as, I just watched a car crash in slow motion and couldn't look away. Well, I asked from the kitchen, where I was making grilled cheese sandwiches because it was Sunday and I'd earned simple pleasures. Your mother-in-law just gave a performance that would make Meryl Streep jealous, Harper said, dropping her purse on the counter. She told half the congregation that you're a cold, calculating man who humiliated his family over a simple misunderstanding. A simple misunderstanding? That's what we're calling it now. Oh, it gets better. She said you were punishing her for one tiny mistake, and that she's the real victim here because you've stolen her car and made her granddaughter watch family members fight. I flipped a grilled cheese. That's impressive. She managed to make herself the victim, blame me, and weaponize Lily all in one statement. That's efficiency. Dad, it was wild, Lily chimed in, grabbing a juice box from the fridge. Mrs. Henderson, you know, the pastor's wife? She literally stood up in the middle of Grandma's speech. Oh no, I said, grinning. What did Mrs. Henderson say? Harper started laughing, the kind of laugh that comes from witnessing something so perfectly timed it almost seems scripted. She said, and I quote, Evelyn, I saw the margarita post. Several of us did, before you deleted it. So maybe we should talk about what actually happened instead of this revised version you're presenting. I stopped flipping grilled cheese and just stared. Mrs. Henderson said that? To Evelyn? In church. In front of like 80 people, Lily added gleefully. Grandma's face turned purple. Like, actually purple. I didn't know faces could do that. What happened then? Harper was still laughing. Your mother-in-law tried to backtrack, said the post was taken out of context, that she and Nora were just trying to stay positive during a difficult time. Then Mrs. Henderson, God bless this woman. I'm sending her a Christmas card, said positive. You captioned it about finding peace without a pathetic drama queen while your son-in-law's daughter was in the hospital. That's not positivity, Evelyn. That's cruelty. I love Mrs. Henderson, I said. I'm adding her to my will. She's not done, Harper said, wiping tears from her eyes. Then she said that maybe instead of asking the congregation for sympathy, your mother should be asking for forgiveness for treating her family poorly. Then she sat down. Just sat down like she delivered a closing argument at trial. Please tell me someone recorded this. 3 people were definitely holding up their phones. I served grilled cheese sandwiches to my wife and daughter, feeling a warmth in my chest that had nothing to do with the hot stove. So I'm guessing Evelyn didn't stick around for the post-service coffee hour? She left immediately, Harper said. Didn't even wait for the final hymn. just grabbed her purse and power walked out of there like the building was on fire. Where's she now? No idea. She's not answering my calls. My phone buzzed then, a text from Nora. I'd been getting texts from her pretty regularly since Saturday afternoon, each one progressively more desperate and angry, cycling through the 5 stages of grief, except instead of acceptance at the end, she just circled back to anger. This one read, "You ruined my stability. I hope you're happy." I showed it to Harper, who rolled her eyes so hard I'm surprised she didn't strain something. I texted back, "You ruined my vacation." 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again, then disappeared. She was trying to formulate a response that would somehow make her the victim, and I was enjoying watching her struggle with it in real time. Finally, she sent, "That's not the same thing." "You're right," I replied. "A vacation lasts a week. Stability is supposed to last longer. So technically, you had it better than me. You got 3 years of free rent. I got 3 days of family time, and you spent it drinking margaritas while my kid was in the hospital. Math isn't mathing in your favor here, sis." She didn't respond after that. Just went radio silent, which was fine because I was getting tired of explaining basic human decency to someone who thought influencer was a legitimate career path with 0 followers and even less talent. The following week, Harper suggested we go to therapy. Not couples therapy. We were actually doing fine, better than fine really. She wanted to go to therapy to deal with what she called her family guilt complex, which is apparently a real thing where you feel guilty for setting boundaries with toxic family members because you've been conditioned to prioritize their feelings over your own well-being. I agreed immediately because A, therapy is healthy and everyone should go, and B, I wanted a professional third party to confirm that I wasn't actually insane for doing what I did. We found a therapist named Dr. Chun, a woman in her 50s who had this incredibly calming presence and an office that smelled like lavender and looked like someone's incredibly organized grandmother decorated it. Lots of plants, soft lighting, one of those white noise machines that makes it feel like you're inside a peaceful bubble. Our first session, Harper spent about 40 minutes explaining the situation, the vacation, the hospital, the post, the envelope, all of it, while Dr. Chin nodded and took notes in a leather journal that probably cost more than my phone. When Harper finished, Dr. Chin looked at me and asked, "How do you feel about your actions?" "Honestly, pretty good." "Is that bad?" She smiled. "Why would it be bad?" "Because I essentially upended 2 people's lives in the span of a weekend. Society generally frowns on that." "Did you do anything illegal?" "No." "Did you do anything that wasn't already within your rights as a property owner and financial provider?" "No." "Then you didn't upend their lives. You enforced boundaries. There's a significant difference." Harper was sitting next to me on the couch. "Why do therapy offices always have couches? Is that a requirement?" And she said quietly, "I spent years letting my family dictate everything. Where we went for holidays, how we raised Lily, even little things like what we ate at family dinners. I kept telling myself I was keeping the peace, but really I was just avoiding conflict because I was afraid of being the bad guy. And now," Dr. Chen asked, "now I'm realizing that sometimes being the bad guy in someone else's story is actually being the good guy in your own story." I reached over and took her hand. "That's very philosophical. Did you come up with that?" "I saw it on Instagram," she admitted. "But it's still true." Dr. Chen laughed, this genuine, warm laugh that made me like her immediately. "Harper, what your husband did was set boundaries. Firm boundaries, yes. Dramatically delivered, absolutely. But boundaries nonetheless. And what you're experiencing now is the discomfort that comes from supporting those boundaries instead of trying to smooth them over." "It feels awful," Harper said. "Growth often does," Dr. Chen replied. "But let me ask you this. Does it feel worse than watching your family disrespect your husband while your daughter was in the hospital?" Harper was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "No, it doesn't." "Then you're on the right path. We left that session with homework. Actual homework, like we were back in school." Dr. Chen wanted Harper to write down every time she felt guilty about the situation and then write down whether that guilt was based on actual wrongdoing or just years of conditioning. She wanted me to continue doing what I was doing, which was the easiest homework I'd ever received. On the drive home, Harper was quiet, staring out the window at the suburban landscape rolling by, strip malls, chain restaurants, The occasional church with one of those signs that says something supposedly inspirational, but usually just makes you groan. Thank you, she said suddenly. For what? For not backing down. For standing up for yourself. For showing me what boundaries actually look like instead of just talking about them. Harper, you don't have to thank me for. Yes, I do. Because I should have done it years ago, and I didn't. I let my mother criticize you. Let Nora take advantage of you. Told myself it was easier to just deal with it than make waves. But you know what I realized in therapy? What? Making waves is sometimes the only way to not drown. I pulled into our driveway and turned off the car. Then I looked at my wife. This woman I'd been married to for 14 years, who was finally starting to see that her family's dysfunction wasn't her responsibility to manage, and said, then it's time to unsubscribe from their nonsense. She laughed. Actually laughed, not the stressed-out kind, not the uncomfortable kind, but the real, genuine kind that I hadn't heard from her in weeks. Unsubscribe from their nonsense, she repeated. I like that. It's very millennial of you. I'm hip. I'm with it. I know the lingo. Please stop. I'm streets ahead. That's not even a real phrase. We went inside, and for the first time in what felt like forever, our house felt like ours again. No tension, no walking on eggshells, no waiting for the next passive-aggressive comment about air conditioning or meatloaf. Just peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't require margaritas. Weeks passed, and life started resembling something almost normal. Lily went back to school, healthier and sassier than ever, armed with a story about her beach vacation that she'd edited down to "My dad's family is dramatic, and I almost died. But I got ice cream after, so it evened out." Evelyn and Nora, on the other hand, were publicly unraveling like a cheap sweater. Evelyn had apparently tried spinning her sob story at 3 different church groups, only to discover that Mrs. Henderson had already made the rounds with the actual facts. Turns out, when you're competing against someone who brings homemade cookies and the truth to church meetings, you're going to lose every single time. She called Harper one Tuesday evening, her voice shaking with what I'm pretty sure was manufactured emotion. "I just want forgiveness," she said, loud enough that I could hear her from across the room. Harper, to her credit, had been practicing her boundaries in therapy like an Olympic athlete training for the gold. "Then ask the person you called pathetic." The line went quiet. Then Evelyn said, "I can't do that." "Then I guess you don't want forgiveness that badly," Harper replied, and hung up. I was so proud I almost cried. Nora tried a different approach, the Guilt Trip Express, first-class ticket. She sent me a 3-paragraph text message about how I'd destroyed her stability and ruined her credit and didn't understand how hard it was out there for people her age. I read the entire thing twice, then responded with, "You're 32. Get a job." She sent back a middle finger emoji, which I considered a win because at least she'd finally been honest about her feelings. Meanwhile, I'd been busy doing something actually productive. I met with my lawyer, a guy named Rick who charged way too much but was worth every penny, and set up a family trust. Everything went into it. The house, the cars, the rental properties, the savings accounts. Harper and Lily were listed as co-trustees. No more outsiders with access. No more temporary arrangements that lasted years. No more generosity being weaponized against me. Rick looked over the paperwork and said, "This is extremely thorough. You're basically building a fortress." "Good," I said. "I'm tired of people walking through unlocked doors and complaining about the furniture." The fortress was officially closed for business. Months rolled by like credits at the end of a movie nobody wanted to sit through anyway. Life became remarkably simple once we stopped accommodating people who treated kindness like a weakness and boundaries like suggestions. Thanksgiving came and went without the traditional drama, mostly because we didn't invite the usual suspects. Christmas was quiet, peaceful, and featured exactly 0 passive-aggressive comments about my cooking. It was almost unsettling how normal everything felt, like we'd been living in a storm for so long that sunshine felt suspicious. By March, I decided we'd earned a celebration. Not a big one. I'm not trying to rub anyone's face in anything. Just a small backyard barbecue with the people who'd actually shown up when it mattered. I invited my Aunt Grace, who's basically the only person on my side of the family with functioning emotional intelligence. She showed up with potato salad and stories about her wild days in the 70s that would probably get her arrested today. My cousin Jonah came too, Grace's son, a software engineer who once told me he respected how I handled my business like a well-commented code. Clear, functional, and impossible to misinterpret. It was just the five of us. Me, Harper, Lily, Grace, and Jonah. No tension, no weird undercurrents. Just people who actually liked each other eating burgers and laughing about normal things. Lily was helping me grill when she suddenly raised her orange juice and said, "To peace." I clinked my beer bottle against her juice box. The kind without margaritas. "Still not over that, huh, Dad?" she said, grinning. "Kiddo, I'll be over it when I'm dead." Maybe. Harper was sitting with Grace and Jonah, and I heard her laugh. That real laugh I'd been hearing more and more lately. The one that sounded like freedom. Grace was telling some story about a protest she'd attended in 1973 that may or may not have been legal, and Jonah was recording it on his phone for the family archives, which definitely meant he was going to use it to roast his mother at future gatherings. This was family, not the people who shared your blood and treated you like garbage. The people who showed up, who cared, who didn't post margarita pictures during your worst moments. Evelyn and Nora hadn't been back since the envelope incident. Evelyn had moved in with her sister in Tampa, probably complaining about the humidity and anyone who would listen. Nora had found a roommate situation somewhere and was apparently working at a real job, which I heard through the grapevine and chose to file under good for her, not my problem. But every Christmas, I still sent them cards. Simple ones, nothing fancy. Just a family photo. Me, Harper, and Lily looking happy, and a single line inside. Still peaceful. Hope you are too. Harper asked me once why I bothered. Why send them anything at all? Reminder, I said, that we're doing great. That their absence improved our lives. That peace was always an option. They just chose chaos. Some people scream for revenge, throw tantrums, make scenes. Me? I just served mine on their favorite table. Room temperature, perfectly timed, with a side of silence so loud it echoed. Because the one thing they never understood about me was simple. I wasn't their servant. I was their lesson.